YTPC, it's your oh ho ho Uncle Butter coming right back at you. Come to you this evening from, as always, beautiful Adams County, Pennsylvania, home of the Battle of Gettysburg address, and all things Apple. I'd like to share with you, as per Berg's request, for his favorite memories of Christmas as a child giveaway. I'd like to share a few of my memories. I just couldn't narrow it down to one. So, as you can imagine, being a preacher's son, a lot of my memories of Christmas have kind of centered around church. And the Christmas Eve service that my church does is pretty traditional. But one Christmas in particular, I remember it was 1993 because there was a huge amount of snow. So I'm like 13, 14 years old. 13 years old. And unbelievably so, even with like the 2 foot of snow on the ground, there was a bumper crowd there. So much so that I actually had to sit in the balcony. My mom was in the choir, my dad's doing the service, I'm sitting in the back. I was helping being the acolyte that particular service. One of the acolytes that service. And I remember, for time immemorial in the Nights Down Charge of the United Church of Christ, which I am a member of, the last 2 hymns of the service on Christmas Eve are always, and have always been, Silent Night and then Joy to the World. So the lights of the church are on during the service, and then when you get to the point where Silent Night's going to be sung, the hymn is started, and everyone sings the first verse, and whilst the first verse is being sung, the acolytes of the church go around with big candles and kind of light at the end of the row, light the first person sitting near candle, they pass the light throughout the church. And then as the second verse starts, the lights are shut down. Those lights are shut off completely. So by that time, the acolytes are able to go back to their seats. So because of the bumper crowd, I was up in the balcony. I remember very, very specifically, it being very, very cold outside, lots of snow, standing up in a little bit of the balcony. We were all like real kind of bundled up. I remember that particular service, seeing the amount of people that were in the church at the time, and everyone with their candles. But then the last verse, everyone stands up. So it was like almost this really almost religious experience. I know that sounds kind of funny to say you're in a church singing Silent Night on Christmas Eve. Yeah, it's a little bit of a religious experience, but it was marked, and it left kind of a mark on me as a teenager. To see a community come together on a Christian holiday like that, I felt an immense amount of pride about being a preacher's son that particular time. I knew my father was a well-respected man in the community and whatnot, but he was my dad also. So religion kind of happened in the church for everyone else, and it kind of happened in the downstairs bathroom here as he was putting his clergy shirts and stuff on and putting his collar on. So it was very normal, And for a long time we didn't have a secretary. I was the secretary at church because there was no office at the church. I would just answer the phone. So at any rate, that was a really great time for me. I remember that one. Additionally, I would say I remember my great grandmother's apartment. I remember she lived in this little tiny apartment, and we would go to Harrisburg to my grandfather's house, and then we would always have to go over to see her because she was kind of a shut-in, going to see her, and she would always have Fig Newtons. That was her thing. Fig Newtons were sitting out on a plate, and we'd sit and have coffee and converse with her and whatnot, and seeing on my grandfather's side, my great aunt Eleanor, who I loved very much, she would always she would never try and wrap anything because there was nothing to wrap. She would literally just walk in, no presents, get into her purse. Everyone would get an envelope. Mine would have like $10 in it, and you know, just kind of a marked thing, you know. And Eleanor, she was very, very opinionated about what food she liked and which food she didn't like, and like if she didn't like stuff, I don't like that. This gives me gas, or I'm lactose intolerant, or whatever. And finally, I remember, you know, it was not too far away from the 1993 deal. Oh, by the way, after Silent Night's over, they turned on the lights and then Joy to the World, and then coffee and donuts and, you know, general merriment downstairs in Fellowship Hall. In the Fellowship Hall. But yeah, and Eleanor would always be very opinionated on what she liked and what she didn't. My mom kind of ripped into her one Christmas. Not really bad, but it was like, Eleanor, that's enough of that. And, you know, if you don't like something, just keep passing it, because Fred's seeing, you know, what's going on there. And please don't do that. And so after that, which I called her, bless her heart, and God rest her soul, she had such terrible teeth. She had terrible, terrible teeth. She worked for the state. She had great dental insurance, said to my mom. And my mom would always say, Eleanor, go get your teeth fixed. You know, this, that, and I would, I'd call her Aunt Sabertooth, and, you know, this whole thing. It was, but, you know, remembering Christmas times are always, you know, it's a small event when you're an only child, whose mom is an only child, whose, you know, father's only has one other sibling who doesn't have any children. So it was like, you know, my Christmas was like 8 people max. That was like full boat. It was 8 people. My wife comes from a family where they rent out fire halls and have auctions and do this thing. So the first Christmas I went out, you know, this is like 2003-4 time frame. She's like, oh, we're just gonna go to, you know, Sue's family, the Morrises, and we're gonna have a good time. I was like, oh, wait, whose house are we going to? We're not going to a house. We're going to the Clowntown Fire Hall. I'm like, we're going to a fire hall, really? I pull up and see, you know, hundreds of people there. I'm like, okay. I was kind of having a little bit of a moment of agoraphobia, but I remember my grandfather's N-gauge train layout that was around a tree that had the old school bubblers on it. I'm sure you probably heard or seen those before, those ornaments. They're kind of neat. We had a nice train layout at my house, but it was all Lego. So we had a great time building that and keeping that. And I can't wait for my kids to be just a little to the point where, you know, they're not trying to eat the Legos or, you know, whatever. Incidentally, and I think I'll leave you with this now, speaking about Lego, I heard a very, very funny story. It's a new scientific report that's come out. And anyone who hears this is welcome to share this with anyone they feel that they want to. So this new scientific study says that if you cry and the first tear runs down out of your right eye, it's because of sadness. And if it comes out of your left eye, it's because of happiness. But if it comes out of both your eyes at the same time, it's because you've stepped on a Lego. If you can't help it, don't hurt it. Happy, merry, blessed Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah to everyone out there. Uncle Butter, signing out.